So I have this habit of getting myself into situations that I later regret or feel resentful for. So right now I'm at a job that had a lot of upside or has a lot of upside, but the upside doesn't feel authentic to me. So I got this job and it's in a niche that I know very well. I've been in the coffee niche for 9 years, and so I can add a lot of value, right? I have a lot of experience, I have a lot of knowledge. So what I do, and I do this a lot even outside of work, and I'll get into that in a second, but I'll go into something and just try and improve myself, and work really hard, overcompensate, take on more work, get a lot done to prove my value. And it does change the perspective of the people I'm working with, right? So they do think I'm good, they do think I'm valuable, and it did help me get a promotion. I was the last one hired at this company and the first one promoted, but now I'm in a position where I feel like if I take a step back, which I want to do, which is best for me because it's getting a little too much and I can't focus on the things that I want to do. If I take a step back, I feel like I'm going to lose value and I could potentially lose my job. Or if if I'm not doing something right, I feel angry because I feel like I'm losing value, or my view in their eyes is lessened if I'm not always proving myself. And I would do this in relationships too. With my first girlfriend, I kind of knew I shouldn't have been with her, but I just wanted someone there and I wanted to help her. She had a DUI, and I just always wanted to be there and be supportive. And it became something that wasn't healthy. I shouldn't have been with her. And I was kind of getting angry that I had to drive her everywhere, right? Like in the beginning, it felt good to help her, right? Because I was getting value, I was feeling good from helping people. But then later, it became something that I really didn't look forward to. I didn't look forward to hanging out with her, so I pulled away. And then she kind of felt that, or she started not to value me because I was trying too hard, and she felt like I would never walk away. So she kind of started being dismissive, and then that would make me angry, right? So I felt rejected after everything I've been doing, right? I felt rejected and I would get angry, and it would cause a lot of problems in the relationship. I did this with another girl that I was kind of talking to. She was having a lot of emotional problems, so I was there to help her. And it felt good to help her and make her feel good, and she would always come to me, right? So I felt valuable. But then if she didn't want to hang out or pulled away, I would be like, after everything, well, I wouldn't say this verbally, but it was energetically. I was like, after all I did with you, you don't want to hang out. I seem to always get myself in these situations, and I'm learning. And what I'm realizing is codependency is an addiction. So codependency is when we deprive value from outside validation. So I only feel valuable when I'm doing a bunch of stuff at work, or if I'm proving myself. I only feel valuable in relationships if I'm helping someone, if I'm always listening, if I am the shoulder to cry on. A lot of celebrities struggle with this because if they have like a hit movie or a hit song, they feel valuable. But if they're singles or their movies aren't doing well, they don't feel as valuable. So it's kind of like, I'm cool because XYZ. I'm cool because I had a hit song on the radio. I'm cool because I had a number one selling movie. Or I'm worthy because I am helpful, I'm a good listener, I work hard, I have a lot of knowledge in this field. And these things do help with our self-worth. But when we become dependent on it, and if we make a mistake that may jeopardize our view of ourselves based on outside validation, that's when we get angry, we get resentful, and we lash out. So the cause of codependency is the wounded ego. Now, how does the ego get wounded? And if you're familiar with the ego, it gets a bad rap in spiritual texts and even a lot of self-help books, but we all need an ego and an identity. But what happens in our early years in childhood, our ego can get wounded, our identity can be wounded. So all it takes is a parent to make one comment, and now our sense of self is, I'm not good enough. My parent made this comment about me, that means I'm not good enough. So now I have to prove myself. Or your parent could have just been dismissive or emotionally detached, and we internalize that as, I'm not good enough. So to overcompensate, we be the nice guy, or we work really hard, um, or we're always there for people. We don't set boundaries. So the wounded ego is the cause, and now the solution is, how do we become whole again? How do we let go of the wounded ego? For me, when I noticed I was struggling with confidence and self-esteem, the first thing I did was read books. And the first book I read was Awaken the Giant Within by Tony Robbins. It's a great book, and what he talks about in that book is beliefs and affirmations. So in childhood, if you have a wounded ego, it's, I'm not good enough. But what Tony Robbins talks about in this book is, so you have 4 thoughts that hold up a belief, and you keep repeating this. So this is an affirmation, right? You say, I'm good enough because of X, Y, Z, instead of I'm not good enough because of X, Y, Z. And this slowly but surely helps rebuild your ego, but it's more of like a band-aid instead of healing the actual ego. The only way to really heal the wounded ego is to just let go of the reasons why you're not good enough. Instead of trying to covering it up with affirmations, if you just let it go, you realize, I'm good enough just because, or I'm good enough because why not, right? We shouldn't need to validate or give reasons why for why we're good enough. Because when we come into this world, we're just humans. We're just animals roaming around the planet. We don't need to prove our worth. We don't need to do anything extra to change the perspective of other people, or to change the perspective of other people so we can change our perspective of ourselves. So if we just let go of the reasons why we're not good enough, we'll just realize we're good enough just because. This is a concept taught by David R. Hawkins in the book Letting Go. And I was really resistant to this book and everything he talked about, because I was so focused on thoughts. Because thoughts did make me feel good. When I thought good thoughts, I felt really good. But every now and then, like a normal human, you have negative thoughts. Your mind is just random, and you're going to have negative thoughts. So when those would come in, I would get anxious about them and almost kind of control them and suppress them. So if I had a thought that I'm not good enough, I would immediately have to be like, no, I'm good enough, and suppress it. But that the thought and the energy behind it would never be released and let go. So it took me a while to really get comfortable with just really not focusing on thoughts and getting more in tune with how I'm feeling. Because one emotion could have many thoughts, right? If your boss texts you and says, hey, we need to talk, you can have so many thoughts to that text. Like, oh, am I going to get fired? Am I in trouble? If I get fired, where am I going to live? What is my family going to think? How am I going to pay for food? Am I going to survive? You can have so many thoughts from that text, but the overall arching emotion is fear. So if you just learn to release the fear, the thoughts may not be there, or, you could potentially lose your job. You could actually be in trouble. What am I going to do if I don't have a job? What is my family going to think? If you release the fear behind that, you're like, your perspective is, it is what it is. And you have confidence because you dealt with the negative emotions. Now, all that there is left is positive emotions like contentment and confidence. And now you believe, well, I'll figure it out. It is what it is. I'll figure it out. So without the negative, there can only be positive. But now, how do you decide moving forward whether something is a right move or a wrong move, or a positive move or a negative move? Or, there are times where you do need to prove yourself. Like in a job interview, you kind of do need to put on a little bit of a show or a front to get the job. Or, if you're new on a sports team, you do kind of have to prove yourself to your other teammates. But how do we make decisions in a way where we're not doing that from a place of scarcity, but more from abundance and contentment? And for me, what I realized is, once you let go and keep letting go of negative emotions, your authentic self just kind of appears. And sometimes our authentic self appears in certain contexts. Like, I love watching basketball. It's just innate in me. I love watching basketball. I love playing. It's probably my favorite thing to do. And I'm naturally drawn to that healthily, right? I think some people could be drawn to it negatively or maybe use it negatively. Like, Kobe Bryant's my favorite athlete. He's my favorite role model. But I think at some point he did want to just outdo the competition, even Jordan, that he wanted that validation of being the best player, that he did end up losing friends and even family members. He lost contact with his dad for many years. So something that's healthy could become unhealthy. Some people in lifting weights, right? You can want to get in shape and lean and ripped and eat healthy and lift weights. But if you become obsessive over about it, then you kind of lose the joy for it. So I still believe if you learn to let go of negative emotions and you align yourself to positive, not through force, but more through grace, your authentic self is just going to be connected to positivity. Whereas if you're anxious and fearful, and if you always need validation and you're frenetic, you're going to just chase things and latch onto things hoping to get validation. And people are going to sense that and take advantage of you. Like, right now at my job, I feel like I'm being taken advantage a little bit. That's because I was too self-sacrificing. And in relationships, this happens too. And it's a feeling thing. It's hard to describe. And this is why you can't ever tell someone how to think or feel. Because what I like in my truest authentic self is not what someone else's is. I love basketball, but someone else may watch it and just be really bored. I don't like the Discovery Channel. I don't like science-based stuff. I don't like space stuff. But I know people who love that stuff. Like, if that stuff's on the TV and I'm watching it, I get uninterested and I just start zoning out. So I know for me, I don't find that joyful. I'm not content while watching that. So you do have to go through a process of almost refining yourself, becoming aware of how you're feeling, and learning to almost become neutral and then align yourself to the positive, right? So we can have a perspective that's really based in negative emotion, but once we kind of just realize it, let it go, and maybe something else comes up, maybe something neutral comes up, and it's just, you have an attitude of it is what it is. I may stay at this job and just take a back seat and not overreact and run to another job because I'm angry, but I may just be like, it is what it is. I'll just take lesser role, even if that means I get, less pay. It is what it is. I'll have more time to focus on making videos and then going to school for my master's. So again, it's more of a process of discovering that innate child within you. There's some foods I like, some foods I don't like. That's just innate with me. Just learn to connect to your most authentic self. Learn to let go of the wounded ego. During my freshman year of college, I would go out and party Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I would drink a bunch, wake up and be like, man, I never want to do that again, right? How many times do you hear this? You get so drunk and you're like, man, I feel so bad. I never want to do this again. I think codependency and negative emotions are very similar to a hangover. They're addicting. They feel good in the moment, right? When you're drunk, you feel great. For once, you feel free. You feel loose. You feel surrendered. You feel in a very light state. But the next morning, you wake up and you're like, man, I never want to do that again. And I think in the beginning of anything that feels good, sometimes we're not aware of the negative consequences of it. We forget the pain something may cause because something feels good in the moment. It's just a common addiction, right? Someone who does drugs, they feel really good in the moment, and then they spend all their money on drugs, and then they're broke, right? So sometimes we have to remember the pain something is causing us, the frustration, the anxiety, before we step into something. Like, something may seem like the bright, shiny object syndrome. Something may seem like gold. Then we get closer to it, we hold it, and it's really green. So just remember the pain something is causing, and that should motivate you to make better decisions and really want to let go and rebuild your healthy sense of self. I hope this video helped. Until next time.